The cold wind blew through the forest. Snow covered the trees, and the sky was dark. In a small town near the edge of the woods, a young man named Tomil walked slowly down a narrow path. He wore a heavy coat, thick gloves, and a wool hat. He was carrying firewood for his cabin. Tomil lived alone. His cabin was small, quiet, and warm. He liked the peace of the forest. He didn't have many friends. Sometimes he went into town to buy food or tools, but most days he stayed in his cabin, reading books or walking in the woods. That night, as he walked back to his cabin, he noticed something strange. There were footprints in the snow, but they were not like normal footprints. They were longer, thinner, and deeper. Tomil stopped and looked around. A few steps ahead, he saw a figure lying on the ground, half covered in snow. At first, he thought, it was a person wearing a costume. The figure had glowing eyes, silver blue skin, and thin arms. But then he saw her shiver. Her arms were shaking, and her face looked weak. Tomil dropped the firewood and ran to her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She didn't answer. She looked at him with wide eyes. She tried to speak, but only a soft sound came out, something like music, but broken. Tomil quickly took off his coat and wrapped it around her. She was freezing. Her fingers were almost ice. He gently lifted her up. She was light, like a feather, and her clothes were thin and strange. "I don't know who you are," he said softly, "but you need to get warm." He carried her back to his cabin, walking fast through the snow. The sky grew darker, and snowflakes fell harder. By the time they reached the cabin, Tomil's hands were numb, but he didn't stop. Inside, he placed her on a chair near the fireplace. The fire was still burning from earlier, but he added more wood to make it stronger. She sat still, shivering. Her glowing eyes looked around the cabin, at the walls, the books, the lamp. She didn't touch anything. Tomil gave her a blanket. "Here, use this, you'll be okay." She looked at the blanket, then at him, and slowly wrapped it around herself. Tomil made her a cup of hot water. He didn't know if she could drink tea, so he just gave her warm water to be safe. She held the cup, her hands still shaking. After a few minutes, some color returned to her face. Her eyes blinked slowly. She looked at Tomil again and gave a small nod. He smiled. "Good, that's better." Tomil sat on the other side of the fireplace. He didn't speak much. He didn't want to scare her. He just watched the fire and listened to the wind outside. After a while, she pointed at herself and said, "Laura." Tomil looked up. "Laura?" She nodded. He smiled again. "I'm Tomil." She repeated it slowly, "Tomil." They both smiled, and something warm passed between them. They were from different worlds, but in that moment, they understood each other. Later that night, Laura tried to stand. She was still weak, and Tomil helped her to the bed in the corner of the room. It was a small bed, but clean and soft. She lay down carefully, still watching him. "You can stay here," Tomil said. "You're safe." Laura closed her eyes. For the first time since he found her, she looked calm. Tomil sat by the fire, thinking, who was she? Where did she come from? How did she end up in the forest? He looked out the window into the dark woods. He didn't see any lights or ships, no signs of others. He turned back toward her. She was sleeping now, breathing slowly. Tomil didn't have many answers, but he knew one thing: she needed help. And he would give it. The next morning, soft sunlight came through the window. Snow still covered the ground outside, but the cabin was warm. The fire had burned all night, and the room smelled like wood smoke and fresh air. Tomil woke up on the couch. He had given his bed to the strange visitor Laura. For a moment, he thought maybe it was a dream. But then he looked toward the bed and saw her. She was still there, sleeping peacefully, wrapped in his old blanket. He sat up slowly, careful not to make noise. She had come from the forest, weak and freezing. She didn't speak his language, but she had said her name, Lura. That name was. Now stuck in his mind, Tomil got up and boiled water for tea. He also made some porridge, just in case she was hungry. As the water boiled, he glanced at her again. She was waking up. Her glowing eyes opened slowly. She blinked at the ceiling, then turned to look at him. "Good morning," Tomil said gently. "Are you feeling better?" She didn't speak, but she sat up slowly and gave him a small nod. Tomil smiled and pointed to the bowl of porridge. "Food. Warm. Eat." Lura looked at the bowl, then back at Tomil. She touched her own lips, unsure. Carefully, she picked up the spoon the way she had seen him do it. She took a small bite and paused. Then, she took another. Her expression relaxed. "That's it," Tomil said. "See? Not bad." She looked at him, then placed her hand on her chest. "Thank." It was a small word and a little broken, but Tomil understood. "You're welcome," he replied. After breakfast, Lura stood and began walking slowly around the cabin. She touched the wall gently. She examined the small radio on the shelf, then looked at the clock, watching the hands move. Tomil followed her with his eyes. He could see the wonder on her face. To him, this cabin was old and simple. But to Lura, everything was new. She pointed to the bookshelf. "What? Books?" Tomil said, walking over. He picked one up and showed her the pages. Stories, information, words. Lura flipped through a few pages. She couldn't read them, but she smiled. She liked the way the pages felt between her fingers. Later in the day, Tomil went outside to get more firewood. The sky was still cloudy, and the snow was deep. As he chopped wood, he wondered what Lura's world looked like. Did it have forests? Did it snow there? Did she live in a house like his? When he returned, he found Lura sitting on the floor near the fire, watching it closely. She seemed fascinated by the flames. She held her hands near the heat, but not too close. Tomil sat down next to her. "Where are you from?" he asked softly. She turned to him, then pointed upward toward the sky. Tomil's heart beat a little faster. He had guessed, of course, but now it felt real. She had come from somewhere far away. Maybe even another planet. "Did you crash?" he asked. "Were you alone?" She didn't answer. Instead, she closed her eyes and hugged her knees. She looked sad. Tomil didn't ask again. That evening, Tomil tried to teach her a few words. He pointed to a chair. Then he pointed to the table. "Table." Lura repeated the words. Slowly. "See air to ba." Tomil laughed softly. "That's good. You're learning fast." Then she pointed to him. "To Mill." He nodded. "Yes, that's me." She smiled. Then she pointed to herself. "Lura, Lura," he repeated. She seemed happy to hear her name in his voice. Before bedtime, Tomil brought out a notepad and pencil. He drew a picture of the forest, the cabin, and a small figure that looked like Lura. He showed it to her. She looked at it carefully, then smiled. Then she took the pencil and began drawing something else. Her hand moved quickly, as if she had done this before. The shape she made looked like a star map, round symbols, lines, and small dots. In the center was something that looked like a bright sun. Tomil stared at it. "Is this your home?" Lura nodded slowly. He wanted to ask more, but he could see she was tired again. So he put away the drawings and helped her back to the bed. As she lay down, she looked at him and spoke softly. "Safe here?" Tomil nodded. "Yes, very safe." She closed her eyes, and soon she was asleep. Tomil sat by the fire once more. He looked at the strange drawing. It was beautiful, and also mysterious. Somewhere out there, far beyond the stars, was her home. And now she was here alone, afraid, and far from everything she knew. But she wasn't cold anymore. She wasn't lost in the snow. Now she had a warm place, and someone who cared. Tomil didn't know what would happen next. But he had made a choice. He would protect her. He would help her, and maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to understand each other. The days passed slowly, but not in a bad way. Tomil and Lura were learning more about each other. She could now say many small words like water, fire, sleep, and safe. Tomil was proud of her. He also tried to understand. Her drawings, her gestures, and her quiet language made of signs and soft sounds. But in the back of Tomil's mind, one question stayed. How did she get here? One morning, after a long night of snow, Tomil stepped outside to check the trees. The forest looked beautiful, white and still. Birds were silent. No footprints could be seen. But as he walked farther down the path, something caught his eye, near. The edge of the woods, the snow was burned black in a wide circle. The trees nearby were broken or bent. Smoke smell still hung in the air, even though many days had passed. He stepped closer and knelt down. The snow was hard and melted in strange shapes. He touched one spot and felt warmth deep below the cold. "Layer, this is not normal," he whispered. Then he saw something shiny sticking out of the snow. It was part of a strange device half buried, glowing faintly, shaped like a triangle with smooth curves. It didn't look like anything made. On Earth. Tomil picked it up carefully. It was cold on the outside, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. He put it in his coat and hurried back to the cabin. When he stepped inside, Lyra looked up from her place near the fire. She saw his serious face and stood quickly. Tomil placed the object on the table. "Lyra, look at this." She moved closer. The moment her eyes saw the device, she froze. Her hands shook a little. Slowly she reached out and touched it. A soft light glowed from her fingers. The device lit up, showed symbols that floated in the air, and made a soft humming sound. Tomil stepped back, surprised. "What is it?" Lyra didn't speak. Her face was full of sadness. She looked at him, then sat down quietly. She drew again. On the paper. This time, she drew a round ship with a hole in the side, smoke coming out of it, and a small figure falling from the sky alone. Tomil understood. "You crashed," she nodded slowly. He sat beside her. "Are you hurt? Still hurt inside?" She shook her head, but her eyes stayed sad. Then she pointed at the device and made a cross sign with her fingers. Tomil guessed it meant broken. He looked out the window toward the forest. "Is there more? More parts?" Lyra paused. Then she nodded. Tomil stood. "Then we'll find them, together." The next day, they packed warm clothes and food. Tomil carried a flashlight, and Lyra carried the glowing device. They walked into the forest, following the melted trail and burned trees. After an hour of searching, they found a second piece. It looked like a small disc with 3 blinking lights. Lyra smiled when she saw it. She touched it, and the lights changed color. Tomil could see hope in her eyes. They continued walking, but the sun was already falling low. The air turned colder. Tomil wanted to keep going, but Lyra shook her head and pointed back toward the cabin. She drew a symbol in the snow that looked like the moon. Night was near. They returned home and placed the 2 pieces side by side on the table. Lyra sat in front of them for a long time. She was silent, focused. She turned the devices, connected small wires using her own tools, tiny things that had been hidden in her suit. Tomil didn't interrupt. He watched, amazed. She moved like someone trained in machines, like an engineer or scientist. Finally, she stopped and looked at him. She pointed to the star map she had drawn before and said one word. "Far." Tomil nodded. "Yes, very far." Then she tapped her chest and pointed to the map again. "Home." He looked at her, face calm but tired. She missed her world. She missed her people. But here, in his small wooden cabin, she was stuck. Tomil wanted to help more, but he didn't know how. That night, while Lyra slept, Tomil opened his old laptop. The internet was slow, but he searched for news. He typed bright lights, strange ship, sky flash, and forest crash. But there were no reports. Nothing about a spaceship. Nothing about aliens. Maybe no one saw it. He whispered, or maybe no one believed it. He closed the laptop and looked at Lura, sleeping peacefully with the blanket up to her chin. She had come from so far, yet she had landed near him, in the deep snow of the forest. He didn't understand why, but he was sure of one thing. He would not let her feel alone. As the fire burned low and the wind whispered outside, Tomil made a silent promise. He would help her fix whatever was broken. He would search the woods every day if he had to. He would be her friend, her helper, and her home until she found her way back to the stars. The snow outside was still thick, but inside the cabin, warmth and peace had grown. Days passed, and Tomil and Lura slowly began to understand each other more. Lura had found 3 pieces of her broken device now. She placed them on the table every morning and worked on them with quiet hands and sharp focus. Tomil watched her, amazed by her skill. Even though he didn't know how her tools worked, he brought her wires, batteries, and old parts from his garage. She used them carefully, sometimes nodding, sometimes shaking her head. One evening, when the wind was howling outside, the power suddenly went out. The lights turned off, and the heater stopped working. Tomil walked over to the small generator behind the cabin, but it was frozen and wouldn't start. He returned to the cabin and said, "No power. It may take time to fix." Lura looked around thinking. Then she stood up, walked to the table, and picked up one of her glowing crystals. She opened a small round part of her suit and placed the crystal inside. A soft light filled the room. The small heater near the fire clicked and turned on. The lights began to glow dimly. Tomil stared in surprise. "You did that?" Lura nodded. "Help, energy." Tomil smiled. "Thank you." Now the cabin was warm again. And it was not just the machine that brought light, it was the feeling of working together. The next day, Tomil decided to teach her more words. He made labels and stuck them on things around the room. On the wall, wall. On the chair, chair. On the cup, cup. Lura walked around reading each word out loud. Chair, wall, fire, window. She pointed to herself. Lura. Then she pointed to him. Tomil. Tomil laughed. "Yes, very good." She pointed to a bird outside the window. "Sky friend?" Tomil looked. "Bird," she repeated. Every day they added more words. Lura learned quickly. She liked to write in Tomil's notebook. Sometimes she drew pictures, and next to them, she wrote the words she had learned. She also taught Tomil a few of her signs. A soft touch to the heart meant thank you. 2 fingers raised meant yes. A small circle drawn in the air meant safe. They didn't speak the same way, but somehow they understood each other. One afternoon, Tomil cooked something new, vegetable soup. He cut carrots, potatoes, and a few herbs. Lura watched closely. She smelled the spices and tilted her head. When it was ready, he gave her a bowl. She took 1 spoonful, paused, then smiled brightly. "Warm, good," Tomil nodded. "It's called soup." "Soup," she repeated. Later that night, Lura brought out her tools again. This time she didn't work alone. She handed Tomil a small piece of wire and showed him how to twist it. He followed her steps carefully. She gave him a tiny light to hold while she adjusted the device. Together they worked for hours. The final shape of the device was starting to form. 3 round pieces fit together in a small ring. Lights blinked softly, and a quiet tone came from the middle. But one part was still missing. Lura pointed to the map she had drawn again. She made a motion, like a piece falling away. Tomil nodded. "Still missing." She looked at him and tapped her chest. "Need it to go." Tomil understood. This device could send a signal, maybe to a ship, maybe to her people. But it needed all 4 pieces to work. "I'll help you find it," he said. "We'll go out tomorrow." Lura smiled. The next day, they searched again. Snow had started to melt just a little. The sun peeked through the trees, and birds sang soft songs. Lura walked beside Tomil, her eyes scanning the forest floor. After 2 hours, they stopped to rest. Tomil handed her water, and she looked at the sky. Then she picked up a small rock and turned it over. Something shiny was beneath it. Tomil rushed over. "Is that it?" It was. The fourth piece, small, dark silver, with a faint green light. Lura held it close, her eyes wide, complete. They returned to the cabin quickly. She placed the final piece in the center of the device. The other parts responded instantly. Lights danced around it, and a small sound like music filled the air. Tomil watched closely. "It's working?" Lura nodded. "One part, still wait. Full power." She pointed again to the crystal she had used earlier. They needed one more. Tomil remembered something. He walked to the shelf where he had placed the strange triangle he found before. It had a crystal inside. He gave it to her. Lura carefully opened the casing and removed the glowing piece. She placed it into the device. A bright light rose from the center. A soft hum grew louder, and small symbols floated above the table in the air. Lura stared at them, her mouth slightly open. "It call home now," she said softly. Tomil felt both joy and a little sadness. She had almost completed her mission. She might be able to leave soon. He sat by the fire, quiet. Lura sat across from him. "You helped me," she said. "I thank." From heart, he nodded. "I'm glad you're safe now." There was silence for a moment. Then she said something new. "You home?" "Warm, you good," Tomil smiled. His heart felt full. He had saved someone who came from a world far beyond his own. But now, it felt like she belonged here too. And maybe, he thought, her home wasn't just in the sky anymore. Maybe for now it was here, in this small cabin. With him. The next morning started quiet. A soft breeze moved through the trees, and the sun was shining on the snow. Inside the cabin, Tomil made breakfast while Lura checked her device. It was glowing brighter now. Every symbol on its surface was moving, like it was speaking in a language only Lura could understand. She touched the center of the device. "Soon," she said softly. "They hear now," Tomil nodded. "Your people?" "Yes, but not all." "Safe." Tomil looked at her with concern. "What do you mean?" She pointed upward and made 2 signs with her hands. One was a smooth circle, calm and slow. The other was sharp, quick, like a strike. Tomil didn't understand fully, but he got the feeling. There were good ones and dangerous ones. Lura added, "Some look for me. Not help." Tomil's face became serious. "They're coming?" Lura nodded once. "Maybe soon." That afternoon, they walked outside. Lura wanted to breathe fresh air. The snow had started to melt, and birds had returned to the trees. It felt peaceful, but Tomil kept looking at the sky. Suddenly, Lura stopped walking. Her eyes were fixed on something far away, above the trees. Tomil followed her gaze out in the distance. A strange object moved across the sky. It was silent, smooth, and fast, much faster than any plane. A bright light flashed from its side. Tomil whispered, "Is that one of them?" Lura didn't answer, but her face turned pale. She quickly pulled Tomil's arm. "Inside, now." They ran back into the cabin. Lura closed the curtains. She turned off the device's light. Her hands were shaking. Tomil locked the door. "What's wrong?" She pointed to the window. "Not friends. Not help," he understood. These were not the same people Lura wanted to reach. These were others. Maybe the ones who chased her. The ones she was hiding from. "They found you?" he asked. She nodded. Tomil single quotes, S mind raced. He never wanted trouble. But now it had come to his home. Still, he didn't feel fear, not for himself, but for her. "We'll keep the lights off," he said. We'll stay quiet. That night, the strange ship came closer. Tomil saw it again through a crack in the curtain. It hovered low over the trees. A beam of light searched the forest like a flashlight in the sky. Then, two smaller crafts flew out from it and moved toward the ground. Tomil turned to Lura. We have to hide you. She opened the floorboard under the rug. It was a small space, just big enough to lie down. Tomil had once stored old books and tools there. Now it would be Lura's hiding place. She climbed in and looked up at him. Her eyes were full of trust. He whispered, "Stay there. No sound. I'll be here." She nodded. He closed the floorboard and rolled the rug back over it. Then he sat on the couch holding a warm cup of tea, trying to act normal. A few minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Tomil opened it slowly. Two tall figures stood outside. They wore long silver suits. Their eyes were hidden behind dark glass. One of them spoke in a low voice. "Have you seen anything strange in the area?" Tomil kept his face calm. "Strange how?" "Lights, sounds, objects that do not belong here." Tomil shook his head. "No, just snow and birds." The two looked at each other. Then one of them stepped inside without asking. He walked around the cabin, scanning everything with a small device. The other one stayed at the door. Tomil stood still, heart beating fast. "Why do you live alone here?" One of them asked. "I like quiet," Tomil said. The scanner beeped softly near the table. The visitor stared at it for a moment, but said nothing. Then he turned to leave. "If you see anything," he said, "report it, for your own safety." Tomil nodded. "Of course." They left without another word. Tomil waited until the sound of their steps disappeared. Then he rushed to the rug and opened the floorboard. Lura was still there, silent and safe. He helped her out. Her face was pale, but she was not crying. She was strong. "They gone?" she asked. "For now," he said. Lura looked at him. "You not tell?" "Never," he replied. That night they didn't sleep much. The ship in the sky stayed for hours, watching, waiting. But it didn't return to the cabin. Tomil and Lura sat near the fire, speaking in soft voices. "They want take me," Lura said. "Not safe there," Tomil asked. "Why do they chase you?" "I not follow their rules," she explained. "I wanted peace. They wanted power." Tomil understood. Lura had run away not just from danger, but from something wrong, something unfair. "Then you did the right thing," he said. She looked at him, and for the first time that day, smiled. The next morning, the strange ship was gone. No sign of it in the sky. But Tomil knew they would be back. He walked outside and checked the trees. No footprints, no burn marks, just cold air and quiet snow. He returned to the cabin and found Lura sitting by her device. It was glowing again, this time with a new symbol. She pointed. "Good ship, come soon," Tomil asked. "You're real people?" She nodded. "Yes, friends, they come for me, safe now." He looked at her and smiled. But inside, his heart felt heavy. She would leave soon. The sky was clear the next day, but Tomil didn't feel calm. The air was too quiet, too still. He looked at the sky again and again, searching for any sign of danger. The ship that had searched for Lura was gone, but Tomil knew that didn't mean they had given up. Inside the cabin, Lura sat near the table. The device she had built glowed brighter than ever. Soft lights floated above it, and the symbols moved like they were alive. Lura stared at them with hope. "Your people?" "They're close," Tomil asked. She looked up and smiled. "Yes, soon," Tomil nodded. He was happy for her, but deep inside, he also felt sad. She would leave. This small cabin would feel quiet again, and the fire would not feel as warm without her nearby. Lura seemed to notice his silence. She came close and gently placed her hand on his arm. "You good," she said. "You help me, I not forget." Tomil gave her a small smile. "You're my friend. That's what friends do." Later that afternoon, Tomil went into the forest again. He wanted to make sure the area was safe before Lura's people arrived. He walked past the trees, checked for footprints, and listened. Carefully, that's when he saw something. A small piece of silver cloth caught in the bushes. He stepped closer and picked it up. It was smooth, like the suits the visitors wore. Not far from the bush, there were prints in the snow-deep wide, and fresh. His heart sank. "They came back," he whispered. He followed the tracks carefully. They led around the forest and circled back toward his cabin. His heart began to beat faster. They were watching, waiting. Tomil turned and ran back as fast as he could. When he reached the cabin, Lura looked up, startled. "What happened?" "They came again," Tomil said. "I saw their tracks." Lura's face became serious. She stood quickly and walked to the window. Her hands moved in the air, forming signs Tomil now understood. "Danger. Close. Hide." Tomil nodded. "We can't wait anymore. We have to send the full signal now." She walked to the device and touched the center. The lights grew stronger. A soft sound echoed around the room, and a beam of light shot upward through the ceiling, straight into the sky. Tomil ran outside and looked up. The beam glowed like a pillar of light, reaching into space. Lura joined him. "Now they see. Good ones. Come fast." Tomil looked at her. "Will the others see it too?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." That night, the sky was no longer empty. A new ship appeared, this one brighter, smoother, and shaped like a star. It moved slowly and carefully above the forest, but below, near the edge of the trees, Tomil saw lights again, not from the sky, but from the ground. "They're here," he said. The dangerous ones had returned. Lura's eyes filled with worry. "They take me if find me, must hide." Tomil thought for a moment, then made a decision. "No," he said. "This time I'll stop them." Lura grabbed his hand. "Too dangerous." "I know, but I won't let them hurt you." Tomil ran outside and waited by the path. Soon, two of the tall visitors stepped out of the forest. They pointed small devices at him. "Move," one of them said. "Where is the alien?" Tomil stood still. "There's no one here but me." "We know you're hiding her." "I don't know what you're talking about." One of them stepped closer. "You are in danger. We take her, and you live." Tomil didn't move. "I won't let you take her." The visitor raised his device. A red light blinked. At that moment, a bright beam from the sky flashed between them. The ground shook lightly. A loud hum filled the air. Another ship, Lura's true people, had arrived. The sky ship sent down soft glowing beams. Two new figures came from the light. They looked peaceful, their eyes kind, their hands open. The two dangerous visitors froze, unsure what to do. One of the peaceful figures spoke in a calm voice. "Leave this place. You are not welcome here." The two intruders looked at each other, then slowly backed away into the woods. A second later, they vanished. Tomil took a deep breath. He had faced them. He didn't fight with weapons, but with courage. And now, it was over. Lura stepped out of the cabin. Her eyes were wide with joy and relief. The peaceful figures greeted her with soft words and light touches on her shoulder. She spoke back in her own language, fast and smooth. Her smile was bright. She turned to Tomil. "They came. You saved me." Tomil smiled. "You're safe now. That's what matters." One of the star people came forward. "You are the one who helped her?" Tomil nodded. "Yes, you are brave. You protected her when others tried to harm." "I did what I had to." The figure gave a respectful nod. "You have a kind heart. If you ever wish to visit, the stars will welcome you." Tomil looked at Lura. She smiled at him, but her eyes were soft, like she didn't want to say goodbye. The peaceful ship lowered a soft light around Lura. She stepped inside. But before the beam lifted her, she looked back. She reached out and took Tommel's hand. "I never forget you," she said. "I'll never forget you either," he replied. Then slowly the light lifted her into the sky. The ship rose higher, glowing gently, and then disappeared among the stars. Tomil stood in the snow, looking up at the sky for a long time. He felt proud, a little sad, but also full of something strong, hope, because he had done something few people ever could. He had welcomed a stranger. He had protected a visitor from the stars. And in return, he had found something greater than he ever expected, a true friend. The stars were quiet now. Tomil stood outside his cabin, looking up at the sky. The snow around him had stopped falling. The night was peaceful again. The wind was soft, and the forest was silent. Lura was gone. She had returned to her people, carried into the sky by a beam of light. The ship had vanished, leaving behind nothing but stillness. Tommel's heart felt heavy, but not broken. He missed her already. Every part of the cabin reminded him of her, the small marks on the table where she worked, the notebook with her drawings, the cup she always used. He walked back inside slowly. The fire was still burning in the fireplace. Warm and calm, Tomil sat down in his chair and stared at the flames. "She's safe," he whispered to himself. "That's what matters." He reached for the notebook Lura had left behind. It was filled with pictures of stars, of planets, of birds, of soup, and of him. On the last page, there was one drawing. That made him pause. It showed two people standing under the stars. One had short hair. One had glowing eyes, and above them was a line of strange writing. He couldn't read it, but somehow he knew what it meant. "Friend forever." Tomil smiled. His chest felt warm that the next few days were quiet. Tomil cleaned the cabin, repaired the broken generator, and went into town to buy food. He said hello to people, smiled politely, and returned home. But something inside him had changed. He often walked to the forest and looked at the place where he first found her. He stood in the snow, remembering how weak she was, how she had shivered, and how he had carried her back to safety. "She trusted me," he thought, "and I didn't let her down." That thought gave him strength. One night, about a week later, Tomil was sitting by the fire when the lights in the cabin flickered. He looked up. The lights blinked again, off and on, and then stayed bright. Tomil stood. What now? Then he heard a soft humming sound. Not from outside, but from the table. The device Lura had built, the one she had used to call her people, was glowing again. But he had seen her take the main piece with her. This was only the empty frame. So why was it glowing? He stepped closer. Small symbols floated above it. And then the light shaped into something new, something beautiful. A soft figure appeared in the air. Glowing, gentle, peaceful. It was Lura. Not in person, but in light. A message. She spoke, her voice soft and clear. "Tomil, you kind, you brave. You gave me warmth. You gave me peace." Tomil stood frozen. "You help me remember," she continued, "what kindness is. You make my heart strong." Then her face changed into a smile. "Now I come back." Tomil's eyes grew wide. "Come back?" The light blinked, and her image faded. He ran outside, heart pounding. The night sky was dark, but then a star began to move. Slowly, it grew brighter. Closer. It was the ship. A soft beam of light touched down beside the cabin. Glowing softly, Tomil stepped back as the beam widened, and Lura appeared. This time she was real, not a message, not a dream. She stepped out of the beam and walked toward him, eyes glowing, smile wide. Tomil couldn't believe it. "You came back?" She nodded. "Yes, I don't want only sky. I want here. I want you." Tomil didn't know what to say. His heart felt full. "But your people?" he asked. "They help me," she said. "They say I choose this place." She looked at the cabin, then back at him. "This is warm home now," Tomil smiled. He stepped forward and took her hand. It was still soft, still glowing, still hers. "I never thought I'd see you again," he whispered. "I always come back," she said. The days that followed were full of joy. Lura stayed. She lived with Tomil in the cabin. She helped him grow food in the spring, fixed the broken radio, and learned new human words. Every day, Tomil built her a special corner in the cabin to keep her tools. Lura made a soft glowing lamp that never went out. Together, they made the cabin better than ever. They took walks in the forest. They watched the stars every night. Sometimes she told him stories using signs and soft words. He listened, smiled, and shared his own. Lura laughed more now. Her eyes still glowed, but they glowed with happiness. Tomil felt like the forest had given him a gift, one he could never replace. Not just a visitor from the stars, but a friend. A partner. A light in his quiet life. Sometimes other ships came, but they stayed far away. Lura said they were her friends, checking to see if she was safe. Tomil always waved to them. And they always blinked their lights in return. The world outside the forest didn't know Lura was here. Tomil didn't tell anyone. It was their secret, a special secret between two friends from two worlds. One evening, Tomil asked, "Will you ever leave again?" Lura thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No, not now. Not unless you come too," he smiled. "Then I guess we stay together," she nodded. "Together, always." And so, the forest remained quiet, but in the small wooden cabin, a strange light always glowed. A soft warmth filled the rooms. And if someone ever walked by on a snowy night, they might hear laughter, the sound of two people cooking soup, or even a new language one made of kindness, smiles, and stars, because the alien woman who once shivered in the cold now had a home, and in that warm home she stayed forever.